What happens when BTS lands in Chicago just days after bringing Toronto to its feet? The answer appears to be pure chaos, excitement, and an explosion of ARMY energy. After completing their highly anticipated two-night stop at Rogers Stadium in Toronto on August 22 and 23, BTS is now heading into the next chapter of their massive BTS World Tour ARIRANG, with Chicago waiting as the group's next major destination. According to the published tour schedule, BTS is set to perform at Soldier Field in Chicago on August 27 and 28, making the Windy City the next major North American stop following Toronto. As news and fan reports of the group's arrival in the Chicago area began circulating, excitement among local ARMY quickly reached another level. Chicago is no stranger to massive BTS events, but this visit carries a different kind of energy because it comes immediately after two emotional nights in Toronto. The Toronto shows on August 22 and 23 marked an important moment in the North American leg of the ARIRANG tour, and now the members are moving rapidly toward their next stadium performances. For fans waiting around Chicago O'Hare International Airport, the possibility of seeing BTS arrive turned an ordinary airport atmosphere into something much more intense. Fans gathered with phones ready, hoping for even a brief glimpse of the seven members as they moved through the airport. Every appearance, every vehicle, every movement near the arrival areas became a potential signal that BTS had landed. Social media began filling with excitement as ARMY discussed the possibility of seeing the group in Chicago, while others prepared for the upcoming concerts at Soldier Field. The timing could hardly be more dramatic. BTS had just finished their Toronto performances, and rather than slowing down for long, the group's tour schedule immediately points toward Chicago. The official listings show the Toronto concerts on August 22 and 23 followed by Chicago on August 27 and 28, creating a short transition period between two major cities. That means Chicago ARMY now has only a short window before the members take the stage at Soldier Field. And this is where the excitement becomes even bigger. Soldier Field is not simply another stop on the schedule. It is the next stadium where BTS will bring the ARIRANG production, choreography, live vocals, massive screens, lighting, and the emotional connection that has defined this tour. The official Chicago event listing confirms two performances, Thursday, August 27 and Friday, August 28, with the shows scheduled at Soldier Field. For fans who watch the Toronto concerts unfold, the transition to Chicago feels almost like the next chapter of the same story. Toronto delivered its own unforgettable atmosphere, and now Chicago is preparing to create something completely different. The city is expected to become increasingly filled with BTS merchandise, ARMY outfits, banners, lightsticks, fan gatherings, and people traveling from different parts of the United States and beyond. The airport excitement is only the beginning. As BTS arrives in the Chicago area, attention will quickly shift from the airport to Soldier Field. Fans will be watching for rehearsals, soundcheck activity, venue preparations, merchandise lines, and any new moments involving the seven members before the first Chicago show. One of the biggest questions now is what BTS will bring to the Chicago stage after Toronto. Will the setlist remain exactly the same? Will there be unexpected interactions? Could the members mention their journey from Canada to Chicago? Could the Chicago crowd create a moment that becomes one of the most memorable stops of the entire North American leg? Those questions are already adding another layer of anticipation. The ARIRANG tour schedule confirms that Chicago is not the final North American destination. After the two Soldier Field shows, BTS is scheduled to continue to Los Angeles for 4 performances at SoFi Stadium on September 1, 2, 5, and 6. So Chicago represents another major milestone in a North American journey that has already taken the group through several stadiums, including MetLife Stadium, Gillette Stadium, M&T Bank Stadium, AT&T Stadium, and Rogers Stadium. The movement from Toronto to Chicago also demonstrates just how demanding the tour schedule is. BTS has been traveling from city to city while performing in enormous venues packed with thousands of fans. Yet each new destination creates a fresh wave of anticipation. In Chicago, that anticipation has now moved from online conversations to the airport and eventually to Soldier Field. For ARMY, the arrival is more than simply seeing an artist land in a city. It represents the beginning of a concert countdown. Once BTS is in Chicago, the clock starts ticking toward the first show. Fans will begin preparing outfits, banners, signs, light sticks, and playlists. Some will arrive early at Soldier Field, while others will gather around Chicago hoping to experience even a small part of the excitement surrounding the tour. And perhaps the most fascinating part is that Toronto has barely ended. The memories of those two Rogers Stadium nights are still fresh, but Chicago is already demanding attention. BTS has effectively carried the energy of Toronto into Illinois, and now Chicago ARMY is ready to take over the next chapter. The official listings leave no doubt about what comes next. BTS World Tour ARIRANG in Chicago on August 27 and 28 at Soldier Field. As fans continue reacting to the group's arrival, one question dominates the conversation. Will Chicago be able to match the energy Toronto created? If the scenes surrounding the arrival are any indication, the answer could be yes. The city is preparing for two enormous nights, and the arrival of BTS has transformed the anticipation into something tangible. From the airport to downtown Chicago, from social media feeds to the stadium grounds, the countdown has officially entered its most intense phase. BTS has left Canada behind after an unforgettable Toronto chapter, and now the ARIRANG journey has moved south towards Chicago. The next stop is Soldier Field. The next audience is Chicago Army. And if the reaction surrounding the group's arrival is anything to go by, Chicago may be preparing for one of the loudest BTS moments of the entire tour. But the story does not end with the arrival in Chicago. In many ways, this is where the next major chapter of the ARIRANG World Tour begins. After completing their Toronto performances on August 22 and 23 at Rogers Stadium, BTS now turns its attention towards Chicago, where Soldier Field is preparing to welcome the group for two highly anticipated performances on August 27 and 28. The official BTS tour information confirms the Toronto-Chicago sequence, with Chicago listed as the next North American destination immediately after Canada, for ARMY watching the journey unfold. The timing could not be more exciting. Toronto had barely finished celebrating BTS when attention shifted toward the Windy City. The members have moved from one enormous stadium environment to another, carrying with them the momentum created by their Canadian concerts. Now, Chicago fans are waiting for their own opportunity to experience the ARIRANG stage. And while reports surrounding BTS's arrival at Chicago O'Hare International Airport have generated intense excitement online, the biggest moment is still ahead: the two Soldier Field concerts. The venue itself has officially listed BTS World Tour ARIRANG for August 27 and 28, with both performances scheduled to begin at 8 p.m. That means Chicago Army has only a short amount of time to prepare before the lights go down and the enormous ARIRANG production takes over Soldier Field. Imagine the scene. Thousands of fans arriving from Chicago, surrounding states, other parts of the United States, Canada, and potentially even farther away, all gathering for the same reason. Purple lights filling the stadium, Army bombs lighting up the crowd, banners being raised, and fans screaming the moment the first signs of BTS appear on stage. The atmosphere is expected to be extraordinary because Chicago is not simply another stop on the tour. It is one of the final major North American destinations before BTS moves on to Los Angeles. Following the two Chicago performances, the official tour schedule lists 4 shows at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood on September 1, 2, 5, and 6. That makes the Chicago concerts an important part of the final stretch of this North American chapter. For the 7 members, the transition from Toronto to Chicago also represents another demanding stage of an enormous global tour. Concerts of this scale require constant movement, rehearsals, preparation, travel, and intense performances, yet the schedule continues at full speed. For fans, however, the excitement often makes the journey feel completely different. Every airport sighting, every rehearsal rumor, every glimpse of the stadium preparation, and every photo shared online becomes part of the countdown. And now that Chicago has become the next destination, social media is expected to become even louder. Fans will be searching for updates, discussing possible appearances, sharing their concert preparations, and wondering what surprises BTS might have prepared for the Chicago audience. Will the members talk about Toronto? Will they mention how much they miss performing in Chicago? Will there be a special interaction with the crowd? Could one unexpected moment during the concert become the next viral BTS clip? Those are the questions ARMY will be asking as the countdown continues. One thing is already clear: Chicago is ready. The city has been preparing for BTS's arrival, and Soldier Field is officially scheduled to host the group for 2 consecutive nights. The anticipation is especially powerful because BTS is arriving after a major Toronto weekend that gave fans 2 nights of stadium-scale performances. Toronto and Chicago are now connected by the tour schedule, creating a rapid transition from Canada to the United States. For ARMY, that means the emotional Toronto chapter is still fresh while the Chicago chapter is already beginning, and perhaps that is what makes the current moment so fascinating. BTS is not simply traveling from one city to another. The entire ARIRANG World Tour is creating a chain reaction of excitement across North America. One city finishes celebrating and another immediately begins preparing. Toronto had its moment. Now Chicago's moment has arrived. As fans continue to react to reports of BTS being in the Chicago area, the attention will inevitably move towards Soldier Field. Every passing hour brings the concerts closer. Every rehearsal, every venue update, and every fan gathering adds another layer to the anticipation. And when BTS finally walks onto the Soldier Field stage on August 27, the noise from the crowd may tell the real story. After Toronto, Chicago will have its chance to show BTS exactly how much ARMY has been waiting for them. 2 nights, one legendary group, one massive stadium, and an audience that has been counting down to this moment for months. The question is no longer whether BTS is coming to Chicago. The official schedule makes that clear. The question is what will happen when BTS finally takes the stage and Chicago Army gets its turn to make history. And now, as the Chicago chapter begins, the atmosphere surrounding BTS has become even more intense. The journey from Toronto to Chicago may look like a simple transition on a tour itinerary, but for ARMY, every city carries its own story, and Chicago is already building anticipation around what could become another unforgettable moment in the ARIRANG era. The official schedule confirms that BTS is set to perform at Soldier Field on August 27 and 28, with both concerts scheduled for 8:00 p.m. The timing is significant because BTS has arrived in Chicago immediately after its Toronto performances, meaning fans have had almost no time to recover from the excitement of the Canadian shows before attention shifted toward Illinois. The Toronto concerts on August 22 and 23 were followed by Chicago on August 27 and 28, creating one of the most closely connected stretches of the North American leg. For Chicago Army, that means the waiting is nearly over. The stadium doors will open at 6:00 p.m. while the concert itself is scheduled to begin at 8:00 p.m., according to Soldier Field's official event information. But before the music begins, Chicago is already experiencing the BTS effect. The arrival of a group of BTS's scale naturally creates enormous attention, especially when thousands of fans have been waiting for months to see them perform. O'Hare International Airport is one of the busiest airports in the United States, and the arrival of a global superstar group can quickly turn an ordinary travel day into an extraordinary scene. Fans hopping for a glimpse of the members may have gathered in anticipation, holding phones and cameras while trying to determine whether BTS had already passed through the terminal. In moments like these, even a small movement can create a wave of excitement. A vehicle leaving an airport entrance, a security team appearing nearby, or a fan posting an unconfirmed sighting can send social media into overdrive. That is exactly why the arrival period has become such a major part of the ARIRANG tour story. But beyond the airport excitement, the real destination is Soldier Field. Chicago is preparing for 2 nights in which the city's lakefront will become the setting for one of the biggest K-pop events of the year. Soldier Field itself describes the ARIRANG tour as a massive global production spanning dozens of regions and featuring BTS's return to the world stage. The venue's significance adds another layer to the anticipation. Fans will not simply be attending a conventional concert. They will be entering a stadium environment designed for a massive-scale BTS production, surrounded by thousands of fellow ARMY members. The sound of the crowd alone could become one of the defining moments of the Chicago shows. BTS concerts are known for the unique relationship between the members and their fans, and Chicago will have its opportunity to create its own signature atmosphere. The question now is what Chicago Army will do when the 7 members finally appear. Will the stadium erupt before the opening song even begins? Will fans create a massive light show across the venue? Will the members react to the crowd's energy? And could Chicago produce a moment that becomes one of the next viral highlights of the ARIRANG World Tour? Nobody knows the answer yet, and that uncertainty is part of what makes the countdown so exciting. After Toronto, expectations are naturally high. Fans have seen the emotional reactions, powerful performances, synchronized choreography, spectacular production, and unforgettable interactions that have characterized this tour. Now Chicago gets to write its own version of the story. One thing that makes the current moment particularly fascinating is the speed at which BTS is moving through the North American schedule. Toronto ended on August 23, and Chicago begins only 4 days later. The group then continues to Los Angeles for 4 performances at SoFi Stadium on September 1, 2, 5, and 6. This means the Chicago shows are not an isolated event but part of a rapidly moving sequence that will eventually bring the North American chapter toward its conclusion. For BTS, every city requires a new stage setup, rehearsals, logistics, security arrangements, transportation, and preparation. For ARMY, however, the focus remains much simpler. BTS is finally in their city. That single fact is enough to create excitement across Chicago. Fans who have been following the tour online can now feel that the next performance is no longer far away. It is happening in their own backyard. Some fans may already be preparing their outfits, organizing banners, charging their phones, checking transportation routes, and making sure their ARMY bombs are ready. Others may be traveling into Chicago from neighboring states, turning the concerts into a full weekend experience. Hotels, restaurants, public transportation, and the area around Soldier Field are likely to see increased activity as concert-goers arrive. The excitement surrounding BTS has a way of extending beyond the stadium itself, and Chicago is now entering that familiar pre-concert transformation. For many fans, the most emotional moment may not even happen during the concert. It could happen when they first see the stage. After months of waiting, purchasing tickets, planning travel, watching promotional material, and following the tour from afar, suddenly the enormous ARIRANG stage will be directly in front of them. And then, eventually, the lights will go down. The crowd will become silent for a brief moment. The opening visuals will begin. The first sound will echo through Soldier Field. And the realization will hit thousands of people simultaneously. BTS is actually here. That is the emotional journey behind every stadium show. The airport arrival is only the beginning of that experience. As the hours pass, attention will increasingly move away from the airport and toward the stadium. Fans will watch for any official updates, venue activity, soundcheck information, merchandise announcements, and signs that the production is ready. The anticipation will continue to build until the first night arrives. The official Chicago listings confirm 2 consecutive performances, August 27 and August 28, giving fans 2 opportunities to experience BTS in the city. And because both shows are scheduled at the same stadium, the atmosphere could become even more intense as fans who attend the first night share their experiences with those attending the second. Concert spoilers, favorite moments, member interactions, and unexpected surprises could spread rapidly across social media. That is another defining characteristic of modern BTS fandom. The concert does not end when the lights come on. Every performance continues online through fan reactions, photographs, short clips, discussions, and memories. Chicago's first night could therefore influence the expectations for the second night, while the second night could create an entirely new wave of viral moments. For BTS, however, the focus will ultimately remain on performing. After the journey from Toronto, the members will have another stadium audience waiting for them, and Chicago will demand the same energy, passion, and connection that fans have come to expect from the ARIRANG tour. The transition from Canada to the United States also highlights the international scale of the tour. Within days, BTS moves from one major metropolitan area to another, demonstrating just how enormous the current tour has become. The official listings place Toronto, Chicago, and Los Angeles in rapid succession, followed later by Latin American dates and additional international destinations.